Hey folks, Brendan here from Bluelight. Now, if you're in the police recruitment process, how are you going to stop yourself falling for the same traps that my clients keep setting up for themselves? Hundreds of them over the years have done this. They keep doing it, which is why I'm doing this video now, to try and stop you from falling into, first of all, the gender trap, and secondly, from talking about how you're going to treat people equally. No, just no. And here's why. So first of all, the gender trap. In my webinars, in my seminars in the past prior to COVID, we may see a return back to those seminars at some point soon, in my one-to-ones, and also in discussions that we have online. I keep finding my clients falling into the gender trap. Oh, by the way, you can find out the links to those courses and the awesome Facebook group that has a weekly workshop that you can join. There's almost 20,000 members of that Facebook group. All the links are below. Everything you need to succeed in the police recruitment process. But back to the gender trap. So here's some examples of what I mean. Last week, in a briefing exercise that we're doing for the online assessment centre, preparing people for the stage 3 briefing, one of my clients talked about how she was going to approach the sergeant, and she referred to him as him. Now, in the exercise, it doesn't mention a sergeant at all. And so, because she was referring to a sergeant as him, I had to ask her the question, so how do you know the sex of the sergeant that is involved in this? And because she's a special constable, she just said, well, I was just imagining my sergeant, who is a male. Now, in the words of one of my clients this morning, she did the same thing, and she said, I need to remember not to gender people. College of Policing have got a posher word for it. They call it gender exclusionary language. And it's because what you're doing is you're assigning someone a gender based on their position. So instead of saying him or her, when it doesn't actually mention the sex of the individual in the exercise, we need to refer to them as they. So I'll go and speak to the sergeant and I'll get them to, or what they will do for me is. Use the phrase they as opposed to him and her, and you're going to be gender neutral. I know some of you are going to be thinking, oh, that's all a bit woke, that, isn't it, Brendan? And listen, frankly, I don't care, because I've worked for and with the College of Policing on 4 occasions over the past 20-something years. I know what they're like, and they will pick up on gender exclusionary language. So bottom line, just don't do it. Don't gender people. And similarly, we want to be careful of using phrases which could raise eyebrows. So this morning in a one-to-one, we were practicing and working through the bolt-on exercises for the Metropolitan Police detective process. And my client talked about a sexual assault case that we were looking as to how we're going to prioritize it. And what she said was, this is really important, especially as the assault was towards a woman. Now, I let that go for, we did the debrief and I let it go, and then at the end of it, I just had to ask, so when you said that sort of especially towards a woman, what did you mean by that? And straight away she knew she'd fallen into a trap she'd set herself. And she explained to me that actually all sexual assaults are important, whether they are towards a woman or a man, it doesn't matter. And she'd worked out that what she'd actually done is decided in her, and she did it unconsciously, that a sexual assault towards a woman was more serious than a sexual assault towards a man. And that's how it came across. And I know some of you are going to be thinking, you're just nitpicking there, aren't you, Brendan? Well, I might be, because I want you to get through the process. I do not want any raised eyebrows, because if I was the interviewer, that I would raise an eyebrow and I'd ask questions about it. And that's the last thing you need in your assessment. You just don't need an interviewer or an assessor asking you questions about why you've gendered someone or why you've used a certain phrase that might be your stereotype. So moving on from that, something which is related to it is the treating people equally. Now, when we talk about situational exercises, these are the sort of things that you get in your online assessment centre and the detective bolt-on, and increasingly forces are giving you scenarios to deal with as part of your final interview. And when you get those, you may fall into the trap that so many of my clients have fallen into, where they talk about how they would look to treat everyone equally, because that's equality, isn't it? Isn't equality treating people equally? No, it's not. Equality, and this is all part of the emotional awareness and other values and competencies within the competency and values framework. Equality is about treating people according to their needs. And there's ways that you can utilize, there's methods you can use to ascertain what people's needs are, and then look to address those needs. Now, this crops up over and over and over again, which is why I'm highlighting it today. Equality is not about treating people equally. It is about treating people according to their specific needs, and not presuming what their needs are going to be. Not presuming that because someone is Jewish that they are going to comply with the Sabbath strictly. Not presuming that someone who is Muslim is going to fast for Ramadan. Not presuming that someone who's Roman Catholic is going to only eat fish on Fridays. These are all things that some Muslims, Jews, Roman Catholics might do, but others might not. Be careful of your stereotypes, folks. Be careful of your stereotypes. You can only know how people act, feel and believe when you ask them. And there's ways you can utilize to ask them. I cover them in my courses. They're below. All the links are below. Anyway, I hope you found that useful, folks. Like I said, these are things that have been cropping up now for years. Years and years and years. I can remember when I was a trainer back in 1996, training probationary constables, student officers. Cropped up then, and it'll keep cropping up, but for you it won't. So you'll be able to get through your assessment, get through your interview without that raised eyebrow. I'll catch up with you soon, folks. Bye bye for now.